Hey, hello again and welcome back to Paranormal Time. Today's video is all about the paranormal. Whether you are a believer or skeptic, there is no denying that the idea of ghost spirits and other supernatural entities has captivated people for centuries. In this video, we'll be searching some of the most compelling evidence for paranormal activity and sharing some of the most chilling stories of ghostly encounters and discussing some of the most popular theories about what lies beyond our realm of understanding. So turn off the light, grab a blanket and get ready to explore the mysterious and often terrifying world of the paranormal time. Let's get started. Today I'm going to tell a story about Hostel. First, an apology if you see any mistakes. As written, I'm reading it. I was a fresher then. It was my third night at Hostel. Since we were new, we had to face some ragging every now and then. It was almost like a friend. And that night was our final night, the last day of our ragging period. But who knew that on the last day I would be facing the most dangerous and angry senior, Rahul Khosla. Everyone knew that name around the campus and he was well known for his special ways to deal with juniors. It was almost 7 in the evening when I was called in his room. I stood still in front of him. He was tall and had angry eyes, as that a prison warden. I was tense and afraid because I knew if I couldn't please him, I would have to face his wrath, and I really didn't want to be in that position. It was a tradition of almost every engineering hostel in India that the junior had to perform a specific task to the senior apprentice. And to my bad luck, I had appointed the most horrifying task that one could be asked to do in our college. Fill a bottle from the water cooler on the far end of the campus. That part of the campus was not in use anymore, and no one wandered there. And the reason was pretty good. That part once housed the old civil department building, and a tragic incident happened there 10 years ago. A fire started from faulty electrical wiring, and an old college professor made his demise there, a painful way to go. It was rumored that one can still sometimes hear the professor giving his lecture. Hence no one dares to go there, even during the day, and us first year were strictly forbidden to go there. Everyone knew that a visit to water cooler beside the abandoned building at night meant that your life would change forever. But I couldn't deny the task given to me by my senior, and at that moment I was more afraid of the senior than of a ghost story. So I took the empty water bottle, gathered my courage and started heading towards the other end of the campus. At first I had to cross the huge football ground, walk first past the mechanical department building, and across a road and went through the border of our college campus. It was rainy season and there were puddles here and there in the field. As I walked slowly across the field, every now and then I stepped on little puddles, and the sound of the water splashing made me feel like something was pulling my leg inside the puddle. But somehow I grabbed on the grasping bottle tightly. There was an unusual silence in the air that night, and the sky was cloudy, so it was a bit hard to see. And the only source of light was the small lamps lit on the border of our college grounds and the street light alongside the narrow road. After a while, I finally crossed the college grounds and finally reached the mechanical building. I turned around, and in the distance I could see the light from the hostel rooms. The sound of the people talking faded away, and there was nothing to be heard. The other occasional sounds, water dripping from the leaves into the small puddles. I slowly walked past the mechanical building to reach the road. I could see cars and the sound of horns in the distance. The sight of human prison gave me huge relief, and I once again went toward the cooler. I reached the cooler finally and started filling the bottle. The cooler was really close to the abandoned building, which no one dared to come close to. I took a look at the building, and in the faint light from the streets, I could see the broken window glass and the marks of the burns in the building. I had somehow reached here to accomplish my task. But the only thing that was bothering me was I had to walk the same distance yet again. And that was the spooky part. As the bottle was almost filled, I closed the bottle cap, and as I was about to start walking toward the hostel, what I saw almost made my heart jump out. I froze for a moment. It was as if I was paralyzed with fear. I couldn't scream or shout, and somehow I managed to gather my strength and started running towards the hostel. I did not dare to look back, and I ran for my life. I crossed the road and the mechanical building and crossed the football ground and finally reached the hostel and to the room for where the seniors were waiting for me. I handed him the bottle and sat on the ground trying to catch my breath. The senior looked at me with amusement and laughed. The Rahul asked me to stand up and tell my name, my father's name, and where I was from. With a shaky voice, I said, I am Samir Kumar, and my father's name is Shantalis Kumar. The Rahul looked at me with a smile and asked, Are you from Patna? I nodded. He stood up, gave a pat on my shoulder and said, Why you didn't tell me you were Santosh Uncle's son? I have known him for years. Come, you will stay in my room tonight. Saying this, he took me with him. I was kind of pleased as being friends with the most respected and feared senior in college had its own advantage. It was almost 11 at night now, and both were lying in our beds. I was still shaky from what happened earlier. Silence had once again regained the night, when suddenly there was a loud knock on the door. I got up frightened. Rahul rose up for his bed and said, Don't worry, little brother, I am here, I will check. After saying this, he went towards the door and opened it to look outside. There was no one in the corridor. He got back inside and went back to the bed, claiming that I might be someone who was just trying to frighten me. After about 10 minutes, as I was about to close my eyes, there was a loud knock again. We both got up. Rahul looked a little angry this time. I got up and said, Wait, let me check. I went and opened the door, but there was no one there. We didn't hear anybody run away after the knocking, so the person who was knocking must have been around here. I was looking around the corridor when I suddenly heard Rahul screaming inside the room. As I went in, what I saw took my breath away. There in my bed across the room was sitting another me. He was smiling at us. Rahul jumped from his bed and came towards me. The person on the bed then said, Hello Rahul, don't worry, I was just knocking to make frighten you. Rahul was really freaked out. He grabbed a hold of my hand and started running towards the stairs. As we were running further away I turned back and saw the door slowly close behind us, and in between the gap of the door I could figure out the pale deadly face of myself smiling at me. Just as we were near the stair, a gust of air came from nowhere and pushed Rahul out and he fell. Then a door on the side burst open and Rahul saw me being dragged inside. Before he could see anything, the door closed. Rahul was shaking with fear. He came to the door and started banging the door and shouted, Samir, open the door, Samir. The room belonged to Rahul's classmate, Nikhil and Sanjay, with the constant banging disturbing their sleep. Nikhil opened the door. Rahul rushed inside and started looking around the room, speaking and trembling voice. Where is Samir? Where is he? Nikhil and Sanjay were both really annoyed and they thought that Rahul was just drunk. So they grabbed hold of him and started talking off towards his room. They laid him in his bed, and as they left the room, the door automatically shut behind them. Nikhil and Sanjay were spooked and they ran their rooms. Rahul lay in his bed, shaking with fear, and then somehow decided to call my cell phone. He dialed my number and the phone rang. And then suddenly somehow picked up the phone and of course the voice came from the other side saying, Do not try to contact the dead and his was followed by evil laughter. Rahul freaked out and ran out of his room. It was almost dawn. He ran out of the hostel and towards the other end of the campus until he reached the end of the football field. There he sat down on a bench and tried to gather his thoughts. Meanwhile, he didn't realize when he had fallen asleep. After a few hours, Rahul woke up to the sound of siren and people talking. He got up to saw a huge crowd gathered beside the water cooler. He went there and pushed his way into the crowd, and as he reached the middle, what he saw made him scream. Beside the cooler lay the body of his junior Sami with a filled water bottle in his hand, and his eyes and mouth wide open as he had died from shock. Rahul did not know what to do. He turned around and started running towards his hostel room. His heart was beating faster, and everything was slowly fading in front of his eyes. He was almost at the foot of his door and he fainted. Now you must be wondering that since I am narrating the story, I must have survived well. When the post-mortem report came, it showed that Rahul died from the heart attack and the time of death was 7 a.m. and which was 10 hours later after the water cooler incident. I still visit the cooler every now and then, but it's really lonely around there. No one comes here. After that day, it's just me and the old professor. So there you have it, folks. A glimpse into the mysterious and often terrifying world of the paranormal tale. Whether you are a believer or skeptic, there is no denying the enduring fascination that people have with ghost spirits and other supernatural entities. We hope you enjoyed this video and that it has left you with some new insights and perspective on this intriguing topic. As always, thank you for watching and we will see you in the next one. Until then, stay healthy, stay tuned. See you in the next episode. Good night.